What's your view in general of the UNs of this world?
It's very bad. It's terrible. It's very. It's. I have. I think that most of. First of all, we have to separate NGOs from UN. UN is a useless thing. It's the main function of UN is to give jobs to the upper crusts of African and the poor countries, and they have a good job, well paid, and they are totally useless, as we can see now. I mean, UN is totally useless, but they have an advantage is that they don't do a lot of harm because they don't do anything. So they speak and they speak and they make money, not that much, not as much as people think, but for an African country or for an Asiatic country, it's a lot of money, and it's a way of the African government send. If they want to get rid of someone, they send someone to the UN. If they want to retribute something, they send him to the UN, and it's useless, but it's harmless also, mainly, as we can see now. I mean, we have the Secretary General there is the most irrelevant person in the world, and
a complete idiot.
And a complete idiot, and it doesn't change very much anything.
Yes. And just one note on that, I heard the other day that the Socialist Party is thinking about him as a candidate for the presidentials. Can you imagine that guy as president of Portugal? I mean, I can imagine. I wouldn't be too happy, but he's on the cards.
I can imagine. It's a terrible problem. I mean, I think that he won't leave the UN to be president. I mean, irrelevancy, he would prefer UN. I mean, salary is higher. He has much more international relevance than he has as a president of Portugal. He can exhibit his idiocy much wider in the UN than in Portugal. So I don't think I wouldn't, but he has to leave. I think so. But anyway, if you go to the UN, this is one thing. And humanitarian, you have to divide humanitarian aid and development aid. Humanitarian aid is that when there is an urgency, like the Rwanda, or if there is a floods, or if there is a cyclone, and that is more or less acceptable. That kind of aid, because those countries, they do not have the means to deal with very large urgencies, and I think that they are not. What I am strongly against, but I mean very, very strongly against, is about development aid money that we are sending to third world countries in order to help them developing. And the point is,
Palestine.
I mean, yes,
that
the
goes
point
to Hamas,
is that
but
Palestine is worse. No, it's worse. It's much worse. No, that is a particular case because it goes to UNWRA, and it goes to Hamas. I mean money that you send to Burundi or to Rwanda to help them develop, or to Zaire to help them develop, it doesn't help them develop, first of all, but there is a conceptual critique that I do from the beginning. That is, we are trying. The problem in Africa, I'm talking about Africa because it's the continent that I know the better. I've been living there for a while. I've been working there. Africa's main problem is not economical; it's political, and we are treating a political problem with money. So it doesn't work. It's useless. If it's like treating a cancer with aspirins. Aspirins is good if you have a headache. They are not good if you have a cancer. And sending money to
why
Africa,
do they do that? Do you think they are not aware of the solution, or it's for
they
a
are
different
aware.
purpose?
They are aware. I can tell you that one of the things that I learned working in the UN and working with the ICRC, because in Zaire I was with the ICRC, is the most intelligent persons I ever worked with. I never ever in my life worked with so intelligent people as I did in those organizations. So they are perfectly aware of it. They know it perfectly. The problem is that, first of all, you know that men is not a rational animal; is a symbolic animal. So we work by symbols, and not by another thing that it is a way for the white kids to say that at least we are helping them. We have the burden, the white man's burden. We killed them and we did lots of terrible things in Africa, which is not true. We did terrible things and we did good things. And if we put both on a balance, we did more good than bad. But that is another discussion. But for the white man's burden, you say, okay, at least I'm giving money. Everybody knows that. It is like if you have a homeless guy, a drug addict in your door, and you give him money every day, and you know that he's going to spend the money in drugs, but it's his right. For you, it gives you a good conscience. It makes you feel good about yourself, and that's. But you are not helping him. I mean, or you are helping him on a very retorted way because okay, you buy drugs, and that is what you want to do. You just buy drugs.
And you feel good about yourself,
and you feel good about yourself. Yes, and that because you give money.
I have a good example of that. So my mom, when she is walking around in the street and there is a beggar, she never gives them money. She says, if you are hungry, no problem. Baker is there. I go there with you and I buy you whatever you choose. You can even pick the most expensive sandwich. I will buy for you, but I don't give you cash. And the vast majority of them just run away because they're not hungry. They want money for drugs.
They want money for drugs. I am a liberal guy, so I think that if they want to buy drugs with the money, it's their right. They can buy drugs. I don't give money very often but sometimes I give something. If he wants to buy drugs, it's his problem. I'm not there to correct him. I don't. But with African, with the money from development aid, this is what is happening. We are giving money first of all, we are giving money to the governments and to the elites of these countries. Vitor, we come from a country where this happened with European money. What was the use of European money in Portugal? It went to our elites, did not go to our poor. We are as poor today as we were.
Yeah, I'm the same poor. Yeah.
we are as poor today as we were 30 years ago when the money started arriving. It's exactly the same thing. So, I mean, we talk about African countries, but Portugal is the same. Spain is not very different. So, giving money.
And as you said, I think you said that in an interview or in a book. I can't remember that Portugal. It's sometimes it's more like a part of Africa and not as much a part of Europe.
Yes, it's one of my opinions. Portugal is it's a much more African country. If you see the relationship, the social relationships, you have a newspaper now called Página 1 that is unveiling a lot of things that happen, and you would not be surprised to read that on an African country. The way they give money and the way they dispose of public money, it's if you read Página 1 could be an African newspaper. It is not an African newspaper because they wouldn't write those things. They wouldn't be allowed to write those things. They would be killed. But the stories that Página 1 tells and unveils, it's stories of an African country. It's not stories. Can you imagine that in Germany, for instance? You cannot. No. Can you imagine that in Norway? No, you can't. You cannot. So the problem with the human development aid in Africa is the reason, and there is another reason that I'm against, and it is for me, it's one of the main reasons, is that humanitarian agencies and even NGOs. I'm not talking about the big ones. Talking about the NGOs. They are being used as an instrument, as a tool for foreign policy. So France uses MSF as a foreign policy tool. And I don't like this way of doing policy. And there is another reason that I think, and this one is a very, very strong one as well, is that this was told to me by a minister. I don't remember what country it was. And he was not a minister. He was the level below a minister. He was a Secretary of State, whatever, Secretary of State in Portuguese terms. And he told me, why am I going to spend money in public health? If I have a big problem with public health, the day after I have MSF here. So you know what MSF is, Médecins Sans Frontières. Why am I going to spend money with public health? I have MSF or Médecins du Monde or whatever here, or Oxfam. I'm not going to spend money that I don't have in that. So the disadvantages of development aid are much bigger, much larger than the advantages. The problem is that we are not rational. We are a symbolic and mythological species, and we have to make do with that.
Yeah, you're totally right. I think people get amused by the idea that someone is being supported or there is an initiative to help. And if this is happening, it has to be good by default. And people don't take in mind what is it about. They just look at the concept. So it has to be good because it's there for a positive outcome. Now we know that behind the curtains, behind the scenes, there's a lot more. And most of these agents, they're almost like.
Vitor, dá-me um minuto só. Dá-me só um minuto.
Oui. Na boa.
Tu préfères que aille? Ok, espera aí, estou-me a pedir para mudar de sítio. E eu não estava a falar. Não. Se calhar eles não gostam do que eu estava a dizer. Espera.
Vamos censurar.
Ok, vamos. Tenho aqui uma coisa. Ainda tenho uma vista mais bonita. Olha-me só para esta vista, tá? Deram-me um gabinete. Eu estou num co-work e deram-me um gabinete.
Agora vais para o pessoal com ciúmes. Agora vais passar com ciúmes. Estou a ver.
Ok, vamos aqui, podemos continuar aqui, posso falar mais à vontade.
Não, mas senta-te então.
Estou num gabinete. Ok, so...
Agora sim. Yes, so there are agents and they are there, those NGOs, they are there for a reason. I think they are more and more part of the central power. So, and what I find very funny is that sometimes they try to sell the idea that they are part of the rebellion, and they are not. They are more and more establishment. There's nothing more establishment than an NGO, because they are very much connected to government, to institutions, to universities, to the big media. So I don't know how people fall to these traps. It has to be emotions.
Yes, there emotions, yes, but there are much more than that. And the problem is that also NGOs are more and more a way of the Western societies to absorb young joblessness. If you are unemployed, you are a young unemployed man, a young man who has no job, in comas again. So it is kind of an employment agency as well. The humanitarian aid is becoming more and more an employment office. So and they send them there. They don't know. They can't do anything. They know nothing about anything, but they can be sent to Africa because it's better to have someone working on an NGO than receiving unemployment benefits in Europe.